The coal seam gas rush is on, and the biggest in the business are going to build 40,000 wells that will transform rural Queensland forever. A vast spider web of industrial infrastructure will crisscross some of the state's prime farming lands.
To get coal seam gas, a well has to be drilled between 300 and 1200 metres through aquifers to coal beds deep underground. Bringing CSG to the surface requires the extraction of formation water from the coal fractures and cleats. This reduces the water pressure and subsequently releases methane from the coal. As water production decreases, gas production increases. Sometimes, dependent on geology, fracking of the coal seam is required. This involves the injection of a mixture made of water, sand and additives into the well at high pressure to crack and hold open the seams, allowing the gas to flow.
I've had a look at the application, and what is of concern are the manufacturer safety data sheets, or the material safety data sheets they include. They are certainly not to the Australian standard, and as such they are in breach of both the Queensland Act and the National Code for Material Safety Data Sheets.
Dr. Lloyd Smith is also concerned that most of the fracking chemicals do not have to be assessed by the national regulator, NICNAS, before they are used.
Of the 23 most commonly used compounds in fracturing fluids, the national regulator, NICNAS, has only assessed 2 of those 23. And of the 2 that they have assessed, they weren't assessed for their use in fracturing fluids. So you can basically say of the 23 major chemicals used in this process, they have not been assessed by any national regulator.
Anne Bridle heard about a fracking gone wrong on a neighbour's farm. She decided to investigate and found the major aquifer had been contaminated with salty and toxic water. The gas company said this could never happen. Anne Bridle had to find out what chemicals QGC had used to frack and see if they contaminated any cattle. Eventually, the government supplied this list with the company safety data sheets. Anne Bridle noticed that the safety data sheet for the chemical THPS was American, incomplete and 10 years out of date. It did not contain critical information. So Anne Bridle got the up-to-date Australian safety data sheet for THPS, and what it revealed shocked her. It was highly toxic and warned can cause chemical pneumonia and death. It advised do not discharge into sewers and waterways. Yet Queensland Gas blasted 130 litres of THPS down the well. The water group in the Environment Department warned of significant impacts and concluded for some areas, effects of the coal seam gas developments are considerable, with at least 1,000 years passing before this part of the Great Artesian Basin will return to pre-coal seam gas levels. It also stated the real amount of groundwater the companies would use had been vastly underestimated. The real figure could be as high as 45,000 gigalitres, 22 times more than predicted by the proponents.
Coal seam gas activity can contaminate water used for agricultural and drinking purposes. Accidents on the surface, such as leaks or spills of produced water or fracking fluids, can contaminate groundwater and surface water, possibly contaminating drinking water catchments. As you can see, there is also the problem of saline water disposal after it has been pumped from the coal seams.
Farmers feel like they've been misled and told the impacts will be minimal.
The whole process has been immoral in my book. There has been a lot more knowledge than has been portrayed. There is this huge imbalance. They are asking agriculture to bear the cost of the implementation of the industry by deception.
Gas workers are constantly around. Katie says they've lost control of their property. Scott Lloyd works as best as he can around the gas operations. What really worries him is the accelerated drop in his water table since the company's arrived. His cattle are totally dependent on bore water drawn from the Great Artesian Basin. At this one, the level has fallen 10 metres, though the gas companies dispute his findings.
We've only got 5 metres left available to pump, and then.
So you've lost 2/3 of your standing water,
that's
essentially.
Correct, yeah. So if it continues to decline at the rate we are, we've probably only got 2 to 3 years water left here. So it's pretty scary, yeah.
On the Lloyd's property, it's the same story. 2 out of 3 QGC wells are leaking. They told the company back in 2006, but it wasn't properly fixed.
So what we've got here is a well. It's leaking so much gas, it's bubbling.
After 4 years of complaints, QGC is still trying to fix the well. This rig is hoping to plug it with cement. After 3 weeks, the operation was unsuccessful. QGC said they will try again, but Katie and Scott Lloyd fear the well can never be fixed, as they believe permanent damage may have been done to the Great Artesian Basin. As we go to air, the gas is still leaking. Coal seam gas is not confined to Queensland. About 40 resource companies have targeted every state in Australia. In Victoria, Gippsland has been marked for exploration. In Western Australia, they are sinking test wells in the Perth Basin. New South Wales already has 300 wells.
Overseas experiences where CSG mining has been occurring for longer than in Australia show the negative effects are seriously underestimated by Australian operators. Claims that environmental damage can be made good cannot be substantiated. The science points to the clear fact that coal seam gas extraction causes irreversible and catastrophic environmental damage. The potential for damage to valuable resources and social networks is too great to contemplate.